6:30. And since we're remote, I'm going to have everyone that's present just state their name individually. So Jerry Ragsdale is present.
Okay.
And
And
also indicate where you are if you're in the township and the county.
Paul White in Grambling Township.
Ron Eaton, Grambling Township.
Debbie Honay, Grambling Township.
Ryan Thompson, Grambling Township.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, we have a full board. Next is Pledge of Allegiance. So Debbie, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is approval of minutes of December 15th, 2021, January 19th, 2021. Do you have a motion?
Actually, it should be the approval of the minutes from December
20, shouldn't it?
2020. Yep.
Yeah.
And I did go through them the best I can. I was not able to take a lot of notes, so if anybody else had any other comments, I will, put them in the notes. But I didn't see anything, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
I would make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll support.
If you state your name when you support.
Ron Eaton, support.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Approve the agenda. I don't believe we have any other items. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chair, do we need to also approve the January 19th minutes?
Oh, I'm
separate?
sorry. I stated both. So you want to do it separately?
Mr. Laddie, are we okay with what we just did for both?
Yep, you're fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Cool.
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Or
Again,
Ryan
remember to state your name.
Ryan Thompson.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Communications, we have none. So first item is unfinished business. V20010, dimension variance, accessory fence table from November 17th, 2020. Julie Dixon, 5461 Roland Drive, Grambling, and it's regarding the 5461 Boland Drive, Zone R3, single family residence. And the purpose of the hearing is to receive comments from the public to consider a dimensional variance request from section 5.3 fences. The applicant erected a privacy fence in the secondary front yard, and this residence is on a corner lot. I know, Mr. Laddie, or do you have any comments or? Well,
I do. Thank you for that. This matter, we took it up in November, and we had a public hearing at that time, and we had a lot of discussion about our ordinance that has specific regulations for corner lots. And what we have found is that the property owner came to us. The fence was already constructed. I think they went through a company that and either the company and or the township confused the homeowners whether or not they needed a permit. It turns out that our code enforcement department identified this violation, and that's what brings it for you for review in November, but also tonight. And you might remember that in November, we wanted the applicant to take some time to look at potential ways to mitigate the expense in the event that their relief is not granted, and also to provide a more specific plot plan, and also for our building department to investigate other situations where we had corner lot violations. And I can report to you, well, I didn't receive anything from our building department or planning department regarding any other instances of this, although I know they exist. I think I just saw a cat.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I won't do the I'm not a cat joke, but my question for board members, I got a copy of 4 or 5 attachments sent from Maria Brown this afternoon that supposedly was submitted by our applicant Dixon. Did you receive any of that information?
No.
Yes, I haven't.
All right. So
It was in the attachments when Maria put out the notice.
yeah, no, these came in today. In fact,
Oh, okay, I didn't get those in.
So it looks to me like these documents were forwarded to Maria today at about 2:30 from the applicant. And again, they are a couple of estimates. There's a more specific plot plan, and there are photographs of the fence. And so my question to the board is, before we even get underway, I know that one of the items that we had talked about in November was giving the applicant time to first of all, review information for their own purposes, but to at least provide us with a more specific plot plan. And I think the fact that these were forwarded to our planning and zoning staff at 2:30 today, I don't know, and you didn't get them. I don't know how you feel about proceeding without having the benefit of those documents in front of you. And so what I guess my question would be, do we want to right off the bat, do you want to bump this item to your March meeting so that you have a chance to review what was sent in by the applicant?
I think I would, yeah, since we haven't seen them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Any way that Robbie could, you could email that over to Robbie and he could put them on the screen for us potentially, or no? Or would that be too difficult to do at this time?
Well, I will try it, but it doesn't give you guys a lot of time to consider what was submitted. I mean, you're seeing it on the fly, right? And I'm not trying to be difficult about this, but to be honest, we had this discussion in November about submitting this additional documentation. It's unfair to you to get it at 2:30 in the afternoon, the day before the meeting. So, if that's your choice to bump it over, then we can do it. We can have Ms. Dixon's on the call. We can have her weigh in. I know she's going to want to move forward and want you to look at this stuff on the fly, but if you're not comfortable with it, then don't do it.
Yeah, speaking for myself, I'm really not comfortable with it at all. She's had a couple months here, at least 2-3 months to get some stuff together. And this is a really important case, and we want to be able to really look at it and evaluate it. And I'm very disappointed, I guess, and I'm hoping, yeah, in my opinion, we should table it until we have proper time to take a look at the new information.
Yeah, this is Jerry. I agree with Debbie.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, all right. Or just vote on it now. I mean,
Well, you can do. You mean you can decide the case if you want to decide the case. You can also open up deliberations. You could have Ms. Dixon talk to you about it. You have either of the options available to you.
I guess there's a board kind of majority, or is there a motion, I guess, then to table them?
I'd make that motion.
Take your name and
Paul White.
All right, also
is there
support Paul Ronnie Thompson.
moved and supported? Any further discussion?
Amy Dixon has her hand up, so I don't know if she wants to weigh in or if she can.
Can you hear me? Is the mic?
Mhm.
Okay. I actually emailed Maria last week on December 8th, and I can provide that email. I asked her when we had to have the documentation in by, not received a response. So I emailed her again today, and she did not respond. So I called the township, and it forwarded me through her phone, and she said, well, there's a drive-through at the township, or I could just email it to her. And that was at 2:00. She said that she was going to email it to the lawyer and that she would forward it on as well to the other board members. So, you know, I did ask a week ago, 8 days ago, when I was supposed to turn this in. So I also had back surgery. I explained that to her. I've been recovering from that. It's been very difficult to get 2 of the 3 quotes for people to actually come out and assess, because it's the middle of the winter. And, you know, and I started on this the day after our meeting back in November. So I apologize for your disappointment, but it has not been on my end. I began immediately.
Well, actually, so we're responsible for the delay of the week, or at least Maria is. And you first contacted the township last week?
Yeah, on the 8th.
Okay, so there was quite a gap in time between November and last week, right?
Well, I can find my original postcard. It shows that if you have any paperwork before your meeting, you turn it in by 4:00. So I was going actually by that. But again, I contacted her 8 days ago. When do I have to have this paperwork in by? I like to be efficient, thorough, and so I had been waiting for her to respond.
Well, I know it's been difficult because of the pandemic, and township halls are not open, and it, like Attorney said, it's been since November, so you have plenty of time to get it. And I think that we already have a motion on the floor, but I think the board is reluctant to move forward with that without seeing your updated drawings.
Absolutely.
We understand that.
Yeah, I actually had back surgery back in December, so it's been a very difficult recovery.
So, Mr. Chairman, you have a motion to table to the March meeting.
Yes, that's what's on right now. It's been moved and supported, so each one state your name, and if you agree with table or you want to continue with it. If you agree to table, just state your name and say table.
Ronnie,
Debbie Honay, table.
Paul White, table.
Ryan Thompson, table.
Mr. Chair, do you also vote to table?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right, so we will pass this matter until next month, and I will forward out the documents that were forwarded to me to you guys at the end of the meeting, and so I'll be well prepared. And to the applicant, if there's anything else that you want to get in before the next meeting, sooner rather than later, obviously, but you can still supplement if you want to do that. So we will go ahead and move along to the next matter.
Okay, the next item is V2012, dimension variance, accessory structure fence, table from December 15th, 2020. Representative Lindsay Pickerel, 2089 East Hill Road, and it's regarding 2089 East Hill Road, zoned R3, single-family residence. And the purpose of the hearing is to receive comments from the public to consider a dimensional variance request from section 5.3 fence. An applicant erected a privacy fence in the secondary yard, and this residence is on a corner lot located at 2089 East Hill Road. Mr. Laddie, do you have some comments on this one?
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, we haven't heard this case, although I bet a lot of it looks familiar to you. It involves ordinance regarding lot fences. And it also led me to 4 or 5 minutes of confusion because it also involves Bolin Drive, although this is at the corner of Hill Road and Bolin Drive. And hopefully, I saw in your packet, you've got the submittals by the applicant as well as a sketch and an overhead GIS from the township. And so if you're ready to, unless anyone has questions for me, I think the applicant's here and probably ready to proceed.
Okay, is Lindsay Pickrell or a representative would like to address the board?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you can give information in addition to what we've received.
All right. Well, I was looking to put up a privacy fence and I saw one being put up down the road. So I went and spoke to that contractor. One of the very first questions I asked him was if I needed a permit, and he said, no, you don't need a permit if you're putting the fence up in the backyard. So I did get a couple of quotes. I was told the same thing by a couple of people, but I ended up going with him because I saw the work down the road and it looked nice. It wasn't until after the fence was already up, we were in the obviously middle of the pandemic. That's when I received, no, somebody came and knocked on the door. I think it was Steve, and talked to me about the fence. So that was the first that I had heard about needing to get a permit for the fence. And I submitted all the paperwork to you guys. I mean, I don't know what else you want to know.
Well, I just, the previous, the Dixon family, the same contractor told her that they didn't need the permit and went ahead and put it up. So I think really need people to understand that, especially in fencing, you need to contact the township hall for advice rather than talking to a neighbor, because he gave her the same information that he gave you.
Yeah, I didn't talk to the neighbor about it. I talked to the contractor.
He's not a township employee.
I'm aware of that.
I have a question, if I may. Did you apply?
State your name. Who's talking?
White?
I'm sorry, who's talking?
Paul White.
All right.
You applied for, ma'am, you applied for a fence permit and it got denied?
Yes.
And you just went ahead and did the fence anyways?
No, I asked the contractor. That was my very first question for him was, do I need a permit? And he said no. So I did not apply for one until after Steve came by the house and told me that I needed one.
So who applied for a fence permit?
I did. I was told that's
I'm
what I
a
had
little
to
confused.
do.
If you said you applied for one and got denied, but then you say that you didn't think you needed to get one?
No,
Mr. White,
I applied for one after Steve told me I needed to apply for one.
after the
The
fence
fence
was
was already up.
Okay, thank you. All right, the way that's written in that memo is confusing, so that's why I'm reading it and it doesn't sound right, but okay, thank you.
Is there any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, I do have a question, Debbie Honay, that we had talked about to Mr. Lloyd about maybe having somebody from planning and zoning or building department touch base with the contractor, and we were given his name and number. Mr. Laddie, do you know if that happened at all?
I don't know that happened. And again, and I think ZBA members know this. Mr. Lloyd is on to other opportunities. And so I didn't have a chance to look at his files or look at what had been done before that. So I'm sorry, I can't add any information.
Okay.
Honestly, this is Lindsay speaking. Honestly, I mean, if you reached out to the contractor, he's not going to do diddly squat. I mean, every time I've asked him to follow up on something, he doesn't. So I ended up just leaving him out of the picture at this point.
Any other board members have any questions?
I have another one, Mr. Chair. To the applicant, I'm looking at the site plan. And I see it real loosely, but I'm looking at the layout. Did anybody talk to you about what you could do? In the past meetings, Mr. Lloyd gave us a drawing or a diagram of where the fences should be based on corner lots, and it happened to apply to both cases. Based on your site layout, I really can't tell too much about what's going on there. But did somebody tell you what your options are in order to comply? I mean, are you aware of what you need to do to comply?
No.
Let me help with that if I can.
Okay.
So our ordinance requires that if you have property on a corner lot, and I'll read it to you. It's section 11 of 50.10, and it says a non-site obscuring fence, a maximum of 4 feet in height, may be erected in the secondary front yard area or corner lot of record, as determined by the building department, provided the fence is outside of the public right-of-way and is at least 50 feet from the center line of any roadway. And so not only do you have to be 50 feet from the roadway, but if you're in the secondary yard or secondary front yard, you're limited to 4 feet in height, and it needs to be not site obscuring. In other words, it needs to be wrought iron or split rail or something like that. So stockade fences, and I think this one is 6 feet tall, and it's a privacy fence, or what I consider a stockade fence. It is 2 feet too high, and because it's in the secondary front yard, it's too high, but also it needs to be non-site obscuring or ornamental. Now, just like we had at our November discussion, if that fence, if the Bowling Drive facing part of that fence, which is in the secondary front yard, if that was flush with the house and not in the secondary front yard, then it could be 6 feet tall and it could be site obscuring. But because it actually encroaches, it's not flush with the what would I think be the eastern wall of the house, then it falls into these requirements.
Did you understand what the requirement is, Mr. Pearcroft?
Yeah, I do. There is a shed and a tree there, and I've already cut down 4 trees to put up the fence. So it's just going to come down altogether if I can't have it. I mean, the whole reason I got a 6-foot fence is because I have a child with autism and he climbs, and if it was 4 feet or had like the bars or whatever, he would just climb it. So I got this type of fence for a reason. Keep my kids safe from the busy hill road.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question of the applicant?
Yes.
Ms. April, would it work for you? I mean, I know this isn't your choice, but would it hypothetically work if the or fence that faces Bowling Drive was flush with the eastern wall of your home?
No, there's a tree and a shed that's in that line.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Is there any questions or comments?
I guess I have another one to the applicant. What year did you buy the home?
2018.
Okay.
I guess I have more of a statement, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
This is Ryan. I don't feel comfortable with another applicant coming to us for forgiveness. The fence has been erected. There's been no permit filed. you know, I just don't see how it's the same neighborhood, same contractor, and it's all non-compliant.
Yeah, obviously, this is Debbie Honay. Just again, a statement. I drove around there and it looks like the home at Antoinette and Hill Road has a privacy fence, and that does seem to line up with the house. But just like I mean, I don't want to get into the whole set of precedents, but obviously somebody did it wrong first, and then this neighbor thought she could do it as well. And I just don't want to start that. And when we're looking at our you know, the reasons that we have to go by, the variance request reasons, you know, it doesn't really present a unique situation. It is self-created, so it really doesn't comply with any of the standards that we have to consider for a variance. I certainly feel for the applicant being led astray, but I don't know how that can be remedied.
Yeah, and I don't, with the, this is Jerry, with having two of these already, and then with all the construction and so on going on, how many of these may we get after this contractor tell them they don't need a permit, and then they have to come in and they have these problems. So that's why we tabled the previous one, because of the issue of creating a precedent that we'd have to approve all of them in violation of our ordinance. So I agree with you, Debbie. I would agree to table it till March, give the applicant a time enough to decide if she'd want to take that down portion of the 6-foot fence and take it back to the front of the house. And she could, as I understand, she could still have the 6-foot. It was at the corner house, but that would be up to the applicant.
Oh, Mr. Chair, can I explore that a little bit with you?
Yes.
When and again, we postponed the last case to allow the applicant to submit a more precise site plan, and also for the applicant to get an understanding, I guess, of the cost options for moving it. If it turns out that you deny the request, then the applicant has the choice of moving the fence, and she could still have a 6-foot tall side obscuring fence. It just have to be flush with the house, and there would be no variance required, right? So if you denied it, she has that option. The only thing that would require any thought, I guess, or give or take on behalf of the ZBA and the applicant is whether or not you want to grant some relief less than what she's asking for, but more than a denial. And let me give an example. I don't know, and this is just hypothetical. If you said, we can waive the fact that this actually encroaches into the secondary yard, but it needs to be non-site obscuring, or you know, you could change the height and have it be still site obscuring. If those are the options that you're talking about considering, and the applicant hasn't made that suggestion, nor has anyone on the ZBA, then I could see you perhaps adjourning your decision. But if it's a matter of saying there's no practical difficulty, it's not a situation, it is self-created. If you're not inclined to make some compromise that still requires a variance, then I don't really see why you would adjourn it.
Mr. Laddie, Jerry, based on the action we took in the previous one, because we still tabled it until our next meeting, and that's what we did with her initial application, is that if the applicant is receptive of that, and then she want to provide some different scenario for that, then we could table that and have both of them again in March.
But you certainly can do that. But one of the things I'd suggest that you have your applicant explore is the cost options in modifying the fence. And
right.
There's no modifications that I would like to make. I'm just going to take down the side of the fence, and that's it.
Okay, that would be up to you then.
I'm not going to waste my time and get quotes. I'm not going to spend $4,000 to have one side of my fence moved. When it's not going to serve the purpose that I need it to serve, and that's to keep my kids safe.
Okay. You have to send, if it is denied, then you would have to wait a year if you want to do anything else.
I mean, there's nothing else that I would do other than move.
Okay, that's
I have
just some
to. I
suggestions.
have to keep my kids safe.
Yeah. Okay, let me open up
I
the public.
don't have any options.
Let me open up the public hearing, and then we'll come back and issue the motion. Is there anyone wishing to address the public hearing on case V20-012, 2089 East Hill Road? Is there anyone online that wishes to address the public hearing? Hearing none, we'll come back and turn it back to the board. And what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Ryan Thompson, I would deny case V20-012, dimensional variance.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported.
Am I clear
Mr.
there? Or do I
Mr.
need
Chair,
to-
can I ask just some brief questions of the maker of the motion and the second?
Sure.
So I gather from your motion and from the discussion on the record that you're finding that the applicant has not met the burden of proof of showing that there's a practical difficulty on this property that would necessitate relief. Is that a fair statement, Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Secondly, you don't find it to be a unique situation, given the discussion that we had and frankly, the agenda activity we've had on these topics. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Is it also true that the applicant, that the situation or the burden to the property is not self-created?
Correct.
Okay, then I think I have I think I understand the basis for the motion to deny, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor to deny the application?
I don't know how it's not unique that I have a child with autism that needs a fence to be safe.
No, that was the excuse for the other one that we tabled till the next month. So it has to do with the ordinance.
Julie doesn't have anybody with autism at her house.
Mr. Chair, can I make one point, even though you're in the middle of a vote? And by the way, let's do the vote by roll call, but just for the applicant's sake, and this is something that we talked about at our meeting last month. When we technically review these applications for variance, one of the things that you're instructed ad nauseum, unfortunately, is you have to tune out the individual circumstances of the applicant. And in both of these cases, and in all cases, people come to you with very real, very practical problems, have nothing to do with the property or granting a variance, that are so that you're sympathetic to them, but by virtue of the standards required to grant a variance in the state law, you're not allowed to consider each individual circumstance. And again, the rationale is because the variance runs with the land, and it's not specific to any one applicant or property owner. And so I know people find that upsetting, but unfortunately, you don't have the luxury of considering individual issues. And so, Mr. Chair, unless the board has any other questions, I thought you were about to take a vote, and if we can switch that over to a roll call, that'd be great.
Yeah, okay, be a roll call vote. Each one state your name and whether you support or deny. Let's go around the board and state your name and what.
Can we just clarify? We're taking to say yes to deny. This just doesn't sound. This doesn't sound right.
You're right. So what we're doing is we're making an affirmative motion to deny an application, and you're exactly right in why it's hitting you oddly.
Okay.
So you're right.
Okay, all ready for the vote. State your name and what you're voting.
Debbie, support the deny.
Ryan, yes.
Ron Eden, support, deny.
Paul White, yes.
Ragsdale is yes to deny.
So motion to deny the variance passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. There's no further items to come before the board unless, Mr. Laddie, do you have any comments?
No, sir.
Okay, right now, future business, we do have one coming in March, but it's not listed now, so do we have a motion to adjourn? Just state your name and the support name and we'll adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Chair, I do have one question. Mr. Laddie, did you kind of think about the suggestion of adding an additional alternative or alternate member of the ZBA board?
I have to admit that I did not think about that.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough.
Tonight, so I will answer your question. Or a second alternate, is that what your question was?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'll get you that in. And also, by the way, I will tonight forward out what I got, what was submitted to Maria this afternoon, so that you'll have it for your next month's tabled item.
Okay.
Okay.
I would make a motion to adjourn then.
Ron Eaton will support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Note that the next regular meeting is scheduled for March 16th, 2021, unless something occurs. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks all for your participation, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right.
Good night.
Right.